Welcome to BunniPhish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as BunniPhish on Ravelry, Instagram, and YouTube. Today is Thursday, the 31st of May, 2018, and this is episode 11. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. What are you guys working on? Let me know either if you're watching on YouTube down in the comments or on the Ravelry group, because you guys get to see what I'm working on all the time, and I just want to know. My daughter's favorite thing when she asks me a question and I don't know the answer, and she says, that's okay, just put it in the comments. Because she watches a lot of, not a lot, but she watches YouTube channels that are like toy reveals and stuff. I don't understand why they're so fascinating, but she loves them, and at least twice in every episode, they say, oh, what do you think about this? Comment below, so that, the more comments a video gets, the higher it jumps up in a search engine sort of thing. More like subscribes, that sort of thing. Anyway, I guess we're getting off to a decent start since there's a lot of administration, and one of the things is Patreon. So thank you for those of you who went over and are going to be patrons every month. That's super exciting. Haley and Kat, I'm so excited. That totally made my day. But if you get a chance to just go over and look at it at the Patreon page, it's linked below in YouTube and on the blog and in Ravelry. Go and tell me what you think, just so I get some feedback. If you want to become a patron, that would be amazing. If you want to become a patron and you can't, that's also cool. I understand that. So yes, Patreon, that is a thing that is going on. I'm pretty excited about it. And the other administration, there's 3 other things to talk about. So the first 2 are upcoming knit-alongs. One is the Small Things Knit-along, which actually starts tomorrow. So that could be when I post this, honestly. We'll see how long this video gets. But that will be, the rules for all the small things are very simple. Anything that you finish between June 1st and July 31st or 30th, however many days there are in July, I should have checked. I'm not going to. I could do the rhyme, and I'm also not going to do that. The last day of July, so first day of June, last day of July, it's 2-month knit along. Anything that you finish. That can be as small as, if you recall this Christmas garland I'm working on, 1 single bead could count, or an entire blanket counts. A single sock counts as its own finish. Mitered squares count as their own finish, even though the blanket is not finished. So it's pretty loosey-goosey, and there's no rules on how close something needs to be to finishing. So if all you have is 3 stitches to bind off, okay. I'm hoping that you didn't save 27 things with only 3 stitches to bind off. But, we're on the honor system here. So that is that knit along. And there will be prizes.
This is a very nice needle cozy that was made by Christina, Mama C, and it snaps open a little bit, so those knitting needles aren't going anywhere. And then we have 3 sets of stitch markers, which will be separate prizes from Vintage Fairy LLC. There's a dragonfly. With each one comes with a lobster clip, stitch minder, and 4 square stitch holders with beads. The dragonfly has clear beads. The flamingo has pink beads. And then the seashell has white beads. And also up for grabs is a set of care instruction cards for knitted gifts. So you would get both of these. So these are just pretty basic, and this one says, "This took me ages to knit, but I did it for you," and the reverse side has information for care instructions.
Which will be awarded Um, let's say at least twice a month, maybe more. If you're interested in donating a prize to the knit along, that's also really cool. Um, to any of the knit alongs at any point. So the other knit along doesn't start tomorrow. It starts on the 15th of June. So 2 weeks. And that is the Summer Shorties knit along, which is for socks. And it can be any socks. Any single sock that you finish will count. This one, I do have the caveat that the sock be that you knit 50% at least of the sock during the knit along period. So it's going to go from June 15th to August 15th. And they can be any length. I can't remember if I already said that. So short socks, of course. But if you want to knock out a pair of long socks that you've had on the needles for a while, as long as it's 50%, during that time, each single sock counts as its own entry. I don't have prizes for that one picked out yet. For the shorties, summer shorties, if you use, well, you know what? We'll say for both knit-alongs. If you complete a pattern that is my design, you can enter that item twice. So if you're doing the summer shorties and you knit a pair of my socks, then you can post that picture twice to the finished object thread. And back to the, well, let's talk about threads now for both of them, actually. So jumping back to the small things, all of that will be in one thread. You can chat in that thread. When you post your things, your small things, if you make a lot of one type of small thing, feel free to put them in one post, and then you are in charge every time you post a finish in that thread of saying how many finished things you're posting in that post. So if you put up 17 separate pictures, put down that you are submitting 17 entries. If you post one picture with 17 things in it, post that it's 17 entries. Or if you post like one photo with 5 things, one photo with 10 things, and one photo with 2 things, again, just say 17 entries. Make sure to count in your own post. And I would prefer for me that if you're going to post a lot of things at the same time, post them in one post instead of separate posts. It just makes it easier for adding up and drawing prizes. So I will make sure to put all of that at the top of the thread for all the small things. But of course, feel free to chatter in there too, because for all the small things, the winners are drawn by random number generator. But I will, I'm going to make a list in a notebook separate from the thread, so chatter is perfectly acceptable. For summer shorties, I think that there's just going to be a finished object thread for that one, and chatter for that knit along because it runs at the same time as small things. And you can, of course, post your finished socks to both. I'll chatter for that one. Just keep it to the small things knit along. Sound good? Okay, the last administrative thing is that I have finished, well, obviously, I have finished my my first design socks in the Helicoid Volume 1 socks, and they are called Rise Over Run, which for people who are not huge nerds, that is the formula to find slope in math. So I wanted to call these slope socks, but there were so many patterns called slope on Ravelry that I changed it. So this is what it looks like flat. So they have mirrored bands of intarsia in the round. This is, if you have not done intarsia in the round before, this is a really easy pattern. It's super simple. It uses about, I would say a 20-gram mini skein will have you more than covered for the contrast color, which is in the pattern color A. And then for the main color, just a regular skein of sock yarn, whatever you would normally use to knit yourself a pair of socks. So if you can get it out of a 50-gram skein, do that. If you usually use 100 grams, do that. And I knit mine on 9-inch circulars, which I prefer for knitting intarsia in the round. But my test knitter for this particular sock and my test knitters for the other socks that use the same technique knit on magic loop. So there are instructions in the pattern for to make it a little easier when you get to the heel with magic loop. I also think that these are this type of pattern lends itself really easily to DPNs. So personal feeling, magic loop is my least favorite way to knit intarsia in the round socks. Personal feelings, but it's totally doable. I would not recommend doing 2 at a time though for this sock until you get past this part where there's no more intarsia. The feet, totally knit them 2 at a time. What else can I tell you? It's really, really simple. This garter stitch section is done in the round, so it's actually all knitting. There's very little purling in this pattern. So if garter stitch in the round is not a thing that you like, or because, you know, you have to knit and then purl, it's done back and forth for the sock. Magic. So you don't have to purl all of that. I used a Fish Lips Kiss heel in this, but the pattern has a short row heel written in. If you don't have the Fish Lips Kiss heel though, and you like short row heels, I would just recommend you go download the pattern for $1. Yeah, it's super inexpensive. What else about these socks? The yarn that I used in particular was Leading Men Fiber Arts Showstopper, and the All the Way to the Bank colorway is the green, and then the cuff and contrast is Cherry Blossoms. They're absolutely beautiful. This yarn is really, really great if this is your first intarsia in the round pattern and you think you're going to be ripping back, because in the design process you have to knit and then rip and then knit and then rip till you find what you need, and this yarn just holds up great for that, and it's a really good good wearing sock yarn. So yeah, that will be released tomorrow, June 1st, or maybe late tonight, because June 1st happens at different times depending on where you are in the world. Some of my friends who live in the future, it's already June 1st and it's only May 31st for me. So I just have to finalize a few things, and this will be up by tomorrow at the latest, June 1st at the latest. And you have 2 options for purchasing this pattern. You can purchase either the pattern by itself, or you can purchase the collection, which will be distributed kind of the same way that like a mystery knit along is distributed. So you'll get this pattern as soon as you buy the collection. But then there are 2 other patterns that are part of the collection, and one of those will be released on July 1st, and one will be released on August 1st, and those will go straight into your Ravelry library when they're released if you buy the collection. So I'm super excited about it. Okay, was that too much administration? I'm sorry. There was a lot to say today. I have one finished object, which I'm sure you're not surprised about because I was very close to finishing last week. I think that all I had left was the decreases. So that's where I was. This is a Fair & Woods hat by Jack Beck, and I knit it using Knit Picks Swish worsted in Canopy on US size 5 needles, which is what the pattern called for. It's a worsted or DK weight pattern, And last week I told you about all the modifications that I made to the pattern. So this is the finished hat. It's a little bit slouchy in the back, and it's way too hot to be wearing it, but I did want to try it on so you could see. It's got this really lovely cable and texture pattern down the front, or wherever you decide to put it on your head. That was a lot of fun to knit. It was very memorizable. It's only a 4-row repeat, and it basically counts itself because of how the repeat is set up, which is something that I really, really like, because 4 rounds sounds like it's going to be easy, but some repeats are easier to remember than others, and this was an easy one. So very good walking knitting. Highly recommend this pattern. It is a paid for pattern, but Jack has a fairly frequently, Jack has coupon codes or buy one get ones or things like that. So I would recommend, if you're interested in that, following Jack on Instagram at frogitabout.it. Finished. Okay, that's the only thing I finished this week though. I do have a fair number of works in progress, including this design blanket, which I am pretty pleased to say I am almost finished with. And the yarn that I used is a Bernat something. Where's my bag? This one. Let's see if this ball has a tag on it still. Bernat Super Value Big Stripes that I got on clearance. I don't remember currently what the colorway is. That might be in my show notes on the blog. I don't remember. So I am currently on the final side of the blanket. I have all 4 of the corners in, so I just need to make it these last couple, a bajillion stitches, and there will be some grafting over here. And then this blanket will be finished. I'm finishing this blanket tonight. I'm only carrying one work in progress, well, one of my 2 finish in May projects over, which is fine. That's usually pretty par for the course for me to not finish everything and still have one to go. But I am going to finish this tonight because I'm so excited. My local library, I just walked in there last week. I don't remember why. I think I was picking up something I had on hold and dropping off a couple books. I definitely wasn't there for a very long time, and I happened to see they have a digital, I don't know, like message board sort of thing. So I just happened to see that tonight they have a knitting and crochet group. I'm super excited. I am going to go and hang out with some other crafty people, and I'm going to take this blanket and I'm going to finish this, and then I'm also going to take some modular knitting in case I feel like knitting still, and I will also be taking my gourmet stash to spin on in case what I feel like doing is spinning, because who knows what I'm going to feel like doing at that point. But anyway, this blanket is almost finished, and then I have the second version started, and I will work on that next month, but I'll talk about that more later. So the skein that I'm using for the border, so you can see it takes almost a full skein of yarn to do the border. That is a Bernat worsted, basically the same as the body, but I don't remember what it's called. Yeah, so that's the blanket, and I have also been knitting just 1 round a day on these. I am making more Christmas stockings, but I cast them on and then I realized that I actually wanted to finish them for the small things. So I've only been doing, 1 round a day. And I like to make the Christmas stockings out of yarn that I have made something out of specifically. So I don't want to make Christmas stockings out of gift projects or something. Or no, that's not what I'm saying. Like mini skeins that are just minis for my blanket. Does that make sense? So I'm again using a stitch marker to count my rounds for me so I don't have to go back and count later. And the yarns that I'm using are the Shock Star that I used for the Conpieto shawl. This is Croy Woodsy. This one is Shock Star. This one is the Cherry Blossom colorway. This is Tourmaline Stripes by Croy, and this is Red Wing Blackbird by Knit Picks. It'll be much more interesting when they're actual little tiny stockings that I can show you. Right now they're just a big mess, not really even a mess though, on a circular needle, because that is my preferred method for knitting anything small and fiddly. So when I'm making stuffies, arms and legs are all made at once on Magic Loop. When I make hexapuffs, those are made on Magic Loop. Usually, every once in a while, I make them using DPNs, but not very often. Okay, so the next things I have up are spinning. And I have 3 spinning projects going right now. What am I doing? This is ridiculous. So I have the Jehovah Jireh fiber that I was spinning, and tragedy happened yesterday. I was spinning, I dropped my spindle because the hook came out. So there is no hook on here right now, which is fine. I think that I might have a small pack of cup hooks in my desk. I just haven't looked yet. And if not, I can always go to a hardware store and just get a little cup hook. It's not a big deal to replace it. But what I'm doing in the meantime is, because it has this tiny bit of shaft at the top, I am doing a half hitch knot with my fiber to just hold it there. And that holds it well enough that I can spin the spindle. It's not as smooth of a spin as it was, but luckily this fiber I'm spinning just quick and dirty and not worrying about it. So it doesn't matter if the spindle spins forever or spins super steady. And I don't have very much of this ball left, but it doesn't really matter. That fiber will be finished. That particular fiber in this spin will be finished next week. And then, oh, I left it up there. I finished the green. I can't remember if I had finished that last week, but there it is. There's my green. So this is going to be ply number 1. This is going to be ply number 2. And then this one right here, this way. This is going to be ply number 3. And those are just going to get plied together quick and dirty, and I don't have a plan for that yarn, just to make it. Figure it out later. I also have my gourmet stash. There are 3 slivers of fiber on here right now. So I'm going to wind this off before I put anything else on, because once it gets those 3 slivers on, then it starts spinning wonky because it gets too heavy. And I prefer it to spin very fast and steady when I'm drafting out super thin yarn. After these 3 slivers, I only have 3 slivers. I have also been plying on it a little bit. So let me show you the ply. So I have this to ply, and then what's on the spindle right now, and then what I have left to spin. So I'm getting really close to being finished plying too. It's really, really lovely. It's pretty enjoyable to ply, although sometimes I find that I had underspun spots and the single breaks, and that is frustrating, but that's all part of spinning. My third spinning project, I should be grounded for life, is actually on my spinning wheel. Did you know I have a spinning wheel? I do. I have a spinning wheel. So this is my spinning wheel. It is a Luette. Let's see if I can turn it so you can read it. Luette S17 kit, and it is a single treadle. I purchased it from my spinning knitting guru, Lorraine. I am spinning a braid of fiber that I think I talked about last week. If not last week on the podcast, then it was definitely part of my Kentucky Sheep and Wool haul. It is from Apothecary Fiber, and it is merino. You guys, I love spinning merino so much. And I knew this about myself. This is not a new revelation. But I just kind of forgot because I've been spinning not merino, just plain merino. So I split the braid in half and I spun the first half just by itself and didn't split it any more than that. And then the second braid the second half I broke into 6 or 7 pieces. So I have the first half finished. That's what this is. And then I've started the second half. So I don't know if you can tell that it's fractal or not. I think you can because these, maybe not. It doesn't matter. I have the first half finished. I have the second half going. And then this is going to be a combo spin. So I'm using, it's from, I don't remember. I'm using another fiber that is it's also merino. And the colors are very similar, except that the gray in the other fiber is darker. So I'm going to break that and do those plies like a fractal also. And then I'm going to apply all 4 of them together and hopefully get a pretty bulky spin because my sister has requested that I make this fiber into something for my nephew, and I asked him what he wanted, and he said that he would like a cowl. I made I think it's called a woodland wolf cowl before, and I'm going to make that same pattern with this. So it's a big chunky cowl with a hood and ears. So I think I'm going to reverse it though, so that because you start with the cowl part in that pattern, and I want to start with the hood part because the hood is more important than the cowl. The cowl is just so that it doesn't fall off. So if I start running out of yarn, I would rather run out on the cowl than on the hood. But I don't know what yardage I'm going to get. I'm spinning thicker than I normally do, which is pretty weird. If you've been watching for a while, you will have learned that my preferred spinning weight is a fingering 2 or 3 ply, and this is going to be a bulky 4 ply. So the singles right now are as thick or thicker than my normal finished yarn, which is a little weird, but I'm managing it. So yeah, that is my spinning, and I am making good progress. I'm pretty pleased with the progress on that. I'm pleased with the progress on everything, honestly. And then I do have a couple sewing things to show you, or needlepoint. One is sewing and one is needlepoint. I am appliquing, I guess, these letters onto this draft excluder is my favorite name that I've heard for it. So it says home. So the H is about like 75% on. The O just has, I don't know, 2 inches to be sewn on. So I'm going to finish the O today. The M has just a little tiny section sewn down. And then I'm actually taking off the E because I don't like the way that I cut it. So I'm going to cut out a different E. I did start removing the E a little bit. I cut a couple of the stitches, but I haven't really removed it yet. That's coming. And then I have a needlepoint paisley design that I picked up on clearance at Joann. And all of the light pink is in. The magenta is used for French knots throughout, and I started some green because I just could not work with any more pink. I'm going to go back and do some more of the magenta French knots. I just do a, depending on how I'm feeling, either a strand a day or pick a small section that I want to finish every day. So this is not anything that needs to be finished in a hurry, although I think it will look really cute on my wall with the color scheme that I have in here. So that's my plan for it when it's finished. Let's check in with the modular project of the week, which is the granny stripe blanket. I was somewhere in this warm color stripe last time you saw it, and I am nearing the end of this purple stripe. I only have 2 stripes left to go, and then the purple stripe will be finished and I'll be moving into the blue stripe. However, I don't use a lot of, or I haven't used a lot of purple yarn recently, so I'm going to have to actually break into minis to find a purple. I got a new thing this week. From Christina, who is Mama C on Ravelry, she is selling off 100-gram lots of minis for a super reasonable price. So I bought some minis from her because why not? And they are blues and greens, which is super exciting because you know I love those colors. And she also sent on some other things, one of which you will have already seen. She sent that needle cozy, and she sent some socks which don't fit me but will fit someone else in my house, so that's fine. And then the last thing that I'm going to talk about is it's the end of the month, which means tomorrow I start all of the things that I want to finish next month. However, I am doing it a little different in June. So my list is finish the second design blanket. So that's already half finished because the first ball is finished. So, oh, it's a little less than half because then I still have to do the border. But I'm going to finish this blanket. And then I am casting on 2 new things next month. I am casting on a pair of socks using this yarn that I dyed myself forever ago, and it has been caked forever. I dyed it back in Kentucky. So I'm going to cast these on. I don't know if I'm going to use a pattern or if I'm going to just do it vanilla. I kind of just want to do a really simple slip stitch pattern to play with the stripes a little bit, but I don't want to have to think about it a lot because next week is field trip week at my kids' school, basically. There are a couple grades who have field trips either last week. Kindergarten had field trips. I don't know if anyone had any this week, but next week I am personally going on 2 field trips. I am going to a nature center and to the zoo. So I need some walking knitting. So I'm definitely casting these on tomorrow, at least getting the toes on, and then I'm going to put them on 9-inch circs because that's really easy to walk with. And I am also planning to cast on the highway driving mitts, which are designed by Tanya she's in the BunniPhish Crafts group. She's from elsewhere in life. She's from Canada. So I'm planning to cast those on because, first of all, I like to support new designers, and second of all, I definitely want to support one of my friends. So those are going to be cast on. I haven't figured out what yarn I want to use yet. I'm really trying to decide if I want to pull out one of the 50-gram skeins, that one, that I have from Joann's or Michael's, because it says it uses 50 grams, and then I won't have a ton of leftovers from it. I'm I'm thinking that, but I might go for indie dyed. I haven't decided yet, which is why I don't have anything to show you right now. So I will figure that out and cast it on tomorrow or soon. Before next podcast, it will be casted on. I just don't know what to pick. And then I also want to finish my Christmas garland, which I don't have up here to show you. I just need to make beads for it. And the beads are 100 stitches plus cast on total, so 110 stitches total. It's nothing. It's super, like, they're super fast. I just have to do it. And since it's small things, I figure, hey, let's get this done while each of those beads counts as a finish. Because is there anything more exciting than things counting as finishes? Probably not. So I will be posting those in the thread as my finish, which will be exciting. And then the other thing that I want to, well, there's a couple other things on my list, but I'm also going to finish this mitered square chunky miter in June. I know, right? What am I thinking? It's summer. It's getting hot. Let's work on a chunky blanket. But I don't actually have to have this on my lap to work on it because the squares are so big. I can just like have it sitting near me and work on them. I'm on the 7th row. There are going to be 11 rows. So I'm past the halfway point. These squares are pretty easy to knit up. And if I'm on the 7th row, that means I have 4 more to go. Should be totally doable, and each of those squares counts as a finish for the small things that along, so that's really exciting. I'm also going to finish the combo spin, apothecary fibers, and the phoenix, or it's either phoenix something or something phoenix fiber. I'm going to finish that next month, and I would also like to finish the paisley that I have going, and the draft excluder, and yeah. So that sounds like a lot of things, but they're actually almost all started except the socks and the mitts, and I can knit a sock in a day. So it sounds like I'm going light on myself, and I am, because 2 things. One is a mystery knit along that I keep going back and forth over whether I want to do it or not. It is called the Walk the Block MKL by Cassandra from, I don't remember her last name. She's Riza Knits on Instagram. And the whole idea is that you knit this shawl scarfy thing using 12 20-gram mini skeins, which I totally have so many of those that I've either bought and want to use in a project or have or they have been gifted to me, mostly by Haley. I have been looking at that, at possibly doing that, but I haven't bought the pattern yet. And it starts tomorrow. It's a 4-week knit along, and so you use these mini skeins, and the idea is that you knit while you walk, so it's to like get you active and doing things, and also knit at the same time. And there's supposed to be tips on how to knit and walk at the same time, which I already do, but and then there are ideas for if you can't knit and walk at the same time for whatever reason. So it just sounds like it's going to be a really cool knit along, but I haven't committed to it yet. So I don't know if I'm going to buy the pattern tonight or not. That might be a thing that I start or not. I haven't decided yet. I don't know. Like, on the one hand, it would be really cool to have this project that I can work on, and it would support a another Michigan designer who is not a huge designer yet, and you know I like supporting designers who are newer. So I don't know. I haven't decided on that one yet. And then there was another one, but I completely forgot because there were cars that drove by. What was the other thing? Oh, the other thing is at some point this month, I'm supposed to get a shipment for my next design sock. So I want to be able to cast those on right away to get them going. But I don't want to feel like I'm neglecting projects that I need to be working on to finish them. So there's that. And also, it's all the small things, which means I'm going to be doing a ton of modular knitting because that's my jam, right? So it sounds kind of like a busy month, but it also sounds like a really not busy month. Oh, and one other thing. So this is not crafting necessarily, it's more like crafting adjacent. So I picked up a fleece at Kentucky Sheep and Fiber for free, and it is Suffolk, which is a meat sheep. So the reason why I got this one for free is because the owner of the sheep shears the sheep and sends off the wool to giant manufacturers who, use wool for rugs and felt for the tables, for pool tables and stuff. So the thing is that the white fleeces are great, but the fleeces that have a lot of gray in them, you can't dye this any color. You can dye it some colors, but not whatever you want. So he said he gives them away, and I totally jumped on it to, fun learning experience for the kids for the summer. We are going to process the fleece, but I've started cleaning it in batches about just a little bit bigger than this, using a Ravelry muslin bag to hold the fleece and 2 buckets of water. Um, so this is clean-ish. It's mostly clean. The water was like a little bit milky, but not super dirty. So this is what this looks like. And I am going to get some dog brushes, and we're gonna kind of flick the wool. It has a ton of veg matter. These sheep are not jacketed. I enjoyed making my niece dump out the really gross first dunk water this morning. So yeah, that is also something that I want to finish next month, is getting it all washed and maybe starting to process it a little. My niece is super excited. I told her she could help me spin it, and she every time I'm working on a spinning project, can I do that? Can I work on that? And so I let her treadle the spinning wheel a little bit this morning. But unfortunately, a lot of my spinning projects, not all of them, but a lot of them, I want them to turn out a certain way, even if I don't particularly have an idea of what it's going to turn into. So I don't want her to mess up the fiber. You can mess up fiber. So I just it's difficult to mess it up, but I just don't want to even let that be an option. So anyway, this is a really long episode. Not sorry. I hope you made something fantastic with your sticks and string. Tell me what you worked on. Don't forget. And I'm going to go open those threads or the chatter thread for all the small things. I'm going to go open that right after this is done editing. So you'll see that before you see this. And I will see you next week. Bye.